Are MLAs effective?
Unfortunately, at the minute, I'm not very effective. I'm not fully allowed to do my job. In terms of what MLAs do, I'm always quick to point out that there's lots of different things. So it's not just legislating, it's not just talking in the chamber, it's not just asking questions, it's not just engaging with the community. It's when you divide up what an MLA actually does, it doesn't fit neatly within 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So I think that all the MLAs, despite different perspectives, I think we all throw ourselves at the role and do our very best for our constituents. It's an all-encompassing role. A vocation, actually, is what I would call it quite a lot. But yeah, I think we're effective, and if we get the political institutions up and running, we'll be even more effective.
Give us some of those other things, Peter. You said there's so much involved, not just the chamber stuff. Give us a few other things.
Well, actually, I mean, I was having a quick conversation with Colm there. I mean, a lot of what an MLA can do at times is social work connected. I've got a sister who's a social worker, and it's just so varied in terms of what you're going to greet whenever you meet with a constituent to discuss a particular issue. I had new staff members that came on board in May 22, and I had to say, look, guys, there's no handbook here in terms of what's going to come through that door. It could be someone talking about potholes. It could be someone talking about their streetlights or whatever. But actually, there's financial issues in there, there's health issues in there, and you need to be able to adapt and help them as best as possible, scrutinise their problem, present their issue in a coherent fashion to civil servants. You never know what you're going to get with the public because the realities out there, as I was saying to Colm, are just so vast, we can't even wrap our heads around it until it's in front of us. Last night, I was at a vigil that Orlia Flynn from Sinn Féin had organised. It was a vigil for people who had died from suicide and drugs, and we were hearing horrific circumstances from their families, the realities that exist in Belfast that you maybe don't hear in the media, but certainly social workers would see it and constituency offices would see it. So MLAs have to engage with those sometimes without any warning or any preparation and just do the very best that they can. So I mean, I think that's pretty wide-ranging.
So you mentioned suicide, 40% rise over 10 years in deaths by drug overdose. Do you think that the Assembly can have an active part? Because that's the sort of thing that these guys might come across in their schools or certainly in student life. Do you think that the Assembly has any hands-on influence and power with those sorts of issues?
Yeah, so I was there last night with Paula Bradshaw MLA and Danny Donnelly MLA, who are our health spokespersons. And I think there's lots there for legislators to do in terms of getting appropriate policies put in place and making sure that the health service is funded to help people who are in crisis. I find myself quite frustrated when it comes to this conversation because it's an issue that's always talked about but never really seems to go away. So I've always remembered that my brother, when he was in St Malachy's, and he was in 5th year, and 4 people in his year took their lives, which always blew my mind that happened and the impact that had on the wider year, the teachers at that time, 4 people. But those stories are still being heard. I mean, last night I think there was a number, I think 585 people who had taken their lives over a certain period of time. The families that go with them, the impact, because I think the likelihood of suicide is greater for the family members if someone has taken their life. So the issue's always there, and it just feels as if we never really seem to introduce the solutions that are needed to help people in Northern Ireland. Politics is front and centre in terms of how we actually deal with that, in terms of getting the experts around the table, getting the strategy put in place, and then implementing and resourcing the strategy. That's what's really important.
Okay.